But I think that there was still one very important, remarkable event that happened, and might maybe just add to what you wanted to say. And you did mention that your dad was present,
Hmm.
although arguably sometimes showing it in a very wrong way.
Yeah.
But I think there was also one event that happened that really also was a argues a landmark event in the times of these tribulations with your stepmom.
Hmm.
And I wanted you to kind of walk us through that.
Well, I feel honestly, it's that part is it has always been one of the most difficult times to talk about because as you can imagine, I already skipped it, and it's
Hmm.
not even intentional. It's just like that. It's like at the very bottom of buckets of this.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
like yeah, it was. It was one of the high school period, right? When I think I was in my junior high school, and I was in the third year. Yeah, and I think it was one of those times that you go home and then yeah, I think it was also one of the times that we couldn't even reach our mom at that point as well too. So and then it's been happening like you come back home from school and then you don't have food to eat, and that's not entirely because there's no food, right? It's because my stepmom would have eaten all the food, kind of.
mm,
And also because she knows when you can have access to the food, you come and ask her, and she's able to say whatever it is that it's just the happiness that she wants to feel. Like it gives her joy.
mm,
That's what I noticed. It gives her joy when we now come to her and be like, I because it's difficult for me to even ask. I'm like, so I don't know if we have food to eat and all of that. It's just the fact that I'm so uncomfortable to even ask for the basic things because of the way things were. And I mean, coming back from school, everybody, I mean, the first thing I want to do is to eat. And you you have eaten the food. And then when I asked her, she was like, well, do I look like your mom? And then this is the
mm.
same person that would, that my dad would say, she's your mom, blah, blah, if you get what I mean. And, you know, honestly, I really don't, well, right from time, I don't even like the confrontation anyways at that point. So I was not going to like even ask for too long. So I asked her, and then since she was like, "Do I look like your mom? Your dad doesn't. Your dad has not prepared any food for you. Am I the one that's supposed to be preparing food for you?" And she said all of that, and I was just like, maybe my dad was gonna come back on time because it feels like although it's been happening before, but maybe later on she bring the food out. So that's another thing that I had at the back of my mind. Maybe she was gonna bring it out at some point.
Yeah.
But that day it didn't happen. I mean, coming back from school and all, and I actually didn't have any money on me anyways to even be like, okay, I'll go get some food. Yeah, so there was nothing I could do. And myself and my brother were just there in the house, and till it got late at night. Usually my dad comes home maybe around 7 p.m. or so, maybe 6, 7. Later is by 8. But usually it's consistent to come at 7. So keep looking up to the fact that okay, maybe by 7 was gonna come home. I just kept I was when it got late and we all go inside the house, inside our apartment. I just kept looking to the door. I kept checking the window just to kind of look at the car park, and also just keep checking through the window to kind of see if it's gonna come in at any point in time. As time goes on, my brother actually fell asleep. But I couldn't sleep, honestly. I'm not even gonna lie, like, I couldn't sleep. Because this woman keep coming to check on us just to see, and then the coming to check on us is for her to see how miserable we were feeling at
Mm.
that point. Yeah. And she would just go,
So your brother actually fell asleep hungry.
yeah, he slept, honestly, and I couldn't even sleep. Like, I felt like I'm not even that strong to sleep on empty stomach. So I couldn't even sleep. I was just not having it at all. because I was like, if I had missed lunch now, I mean, the time for supper has passed, and around 9 p.m., I was just waiting. My dad didn't come home on time, honestly. That day was very different. And honestly, I just kept on looking towards the door if somebody is just going to come in. And because I know at that point, if anybody comes in, it's my dad. So I just kept on looking, keep checking, but nothing happened. And but that also just puts me where I was lying down. I just kept on wondering, like, for how long this is gonna keep happening. Because for me, it's not just the fact at that point, it's not just the fact that my dad was gonna come back, and then I know when he comes back, we're gonna have something to eat. But also, for how long is this thing gonna keep happening? Like me having to like not be in control of things, like not be able to get food to eat. Like for how long is that gonna be? So that was what was going on in my mind at that point. And then, you know, as soon as the as soon as he arrived, honestly, even though we were like on the second story of the building, I knew it was his car. I really jumped out of the bed. I jumped out of the apartment, out of the house before he could actually before he could even walk towards the building. I was already there. Like, I jumped and hugged him, and to him he knew something was wrong because it was like,
Mm.
okay, this is different. Yeah. And then, he was asking like, have you eaten? And honestly, I just started crying at that point. Like I was like, because I wanted to tell him like I've not eaten, but
But you didn't even have the strength to say anything.
like it was just so hard. Like, and I felt like maybe that was one of the times that I felt like it was very, very hard growing up.
Mm. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah. So we kind of went out that night, to go have something. But my mind really didn't go away from the fact that this thing is gonna happen again. And I feel like maybe at that point on, so I was like, if any good thing is gonna happen to me, it's probably something that I created myself. If and then if I'm gonna expect the world to be in the way that I want, it's probably gonna be the world that I create myself. It was so hard to learn these lessons this way, right? Because I mean, I've learned from school, I mean from some books too that we read in school as to like, like some of the things like your future lies in your hands and all of that.
Mm.
But at
Yeah.
that point, for a child like me, I felt like I was getting wisdom from all those little words from school because those are like essays from schools that we
Exactly. Exactly.
your
I mean,
future.
kids actually typically don't get to practice those sayings until
Hmm.
later on. But you had to grow up so fast, so
Like
quick,
it was,
learning those things.
hmm it was very hard. Like, and at that point, it was just like, I'm getting wisdom from the things from school. Yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, this experience, as bad as they look, as sad it was still something good, honestly. Because I
Mm.
just kept getting better, like with things that I do, like I kept getting better because it was more like now you know where you stand in life, and then you know
Mm.
that if anything whatsoever, then you have to be the one to kind of just correct that. So I, I took that to school, and I mean, I could only practice it in school anyways. So it was really helping, and I felt like even at that point, self, I probably have forgotten about me having issue with my left eye because it was like, no, this is not even gonna stop me. Like, I'm not, I'm not gonna become somebody really cool at the end of the day. And also, another thing was, I'm not gonna come back and come live in this house at the end of the day. Like, whatever it is, it has to take. Like, I just have to give it my all because I'm not gonna come back live with this. And I feel like it's a very, very good mindset, honestly, at
Mm.
that point as I was growing up. Because even as we were growing up, we moved from that house and then we moved to, because my dad eventually built his own house. I mean, not we moved to into our site that time, and then we my dad has enough land over there, and then those my elder brother, my step brothers, eventually built their own houses in the same compound because we have the land. Because my dad always say, "Oh yeah, all this land is for all my children," and I will always tell him, "Not for me, because I'm not gonna use any of this. If
Yeah.
I need the land, I will get it myself." Because
And what was his response when you usually tell him that no, this is
no, it will be
I'm not
like,
building
"Don't talk
anything
that
here.
way. You don't talk that way," and all stuff like that. But another thing that I, another thing in all of this mess, another thing with my dad also is my dad actually was the dreamer. Even though I have the mindset of like, this is what I'm gonna do, like, I'm gonna do better for myself, like, I'm gonna create a life that I want for myself, and then I'm gonna transfer the control from this set of people where I don't have to be helpless to myself and all of that. My dad would come and be like, "I had a dream about you," and I'll be like, "Oh, I hope it's good. This one that you come to me." He'll be like, "Yeah, well, it's good. I had a dream and I see that you actually seated with the governor." I'm like, my boy, small boy, seated with the governors, and then I was actually shaking them. Honestly, I'll be like, "This man needs to sleep." Okay.
Mm,
Yeah, because it was like, even as a child, I was like, well, it sounds good, but it wasn't. It wasn't like in the old things, like it's not relatable at all.
yeah.
And then
I mean,
that was
considering
one
your
bit.
situation at that time,
Hmm.
and then there's this dream about you meeting a governor.
Hmm.
Like, how does that connect? Where does that happen?
Hmm. And that wasn't the only time he did that. I think at another point he came to me, was like he had another dream actually, and then that time he really didn't tell me the dream. The only thing he said was like, "I want you to promise me that you forgive your elder brothers." It was like what he saw in the dream, that he just want me to promise him that I would not take revenge whatsoever on anything. And I was like, "Okay, so you're scaring me." What did you say? I was like, it was a very good thing. But I also feel like at that point, you have the power to do whatever it is you want to do. Like, honestly, it was a heart to heart discussion that day. Like, it was, honestly, I even don't have the mind as to, like, it wasn't part of my plan, anyways, to kind of say, "Okay, I want to take a bit." And he said that because he knew what they did to me. Because, I mean, I only mentioned that once that they beat me, but it happened way more than that. Like, even when I was in the university, maybe are we still going to talk about the university part?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I mean, I just wanted us to kind of, I know we've definitely spoken quite a lot, and this was the same way we had in the initial
Yeah.
conversation, and so maybe this lends, very nicely into how you got into the university course, and I want you to walk us through that dynamic of what you actually were studying and
Yeah.
what he thought you were studying, and just walk quickly through up until when you graduated. Obviously you came out with,
Hmm.
and I'm proud to say, a first class,
Yeah.
but people are going to find interesting to see how that first class was not so exciting. But just
Yeah.
walk us through that story, really.
Well, yeah. So, as I was finishing high school, so there was another award that was created. Like, honestly, I felt like there were a lot of things that were just created at that point when I was in high school. So when I was my final year, and we did our first term exams, and then the result came out. The result was so good, and I'm not gonna lie. At that point, we had another student whose result was better. So we're like the two top in that class, because there was another student that got transferred into our school, and the student was from Ghana.
Okay.
I wouldn't even understand why that student would choose that. That school was very poor. The student was very, very brilliant. I want to say, like, so smart, and it was just like, but the award was created for indigenous students, and that was how I beat the other students.
Wow.
Because when we got to the award ceremony, they were like, the award is only given to indigenous students. So at that point, the other person was really disqualified, and
Mm.
so that was also another cash. Like, I felt like my dad has gotten his money back from what I spent in high school. So I got another cash prize, and that kind of helped me pay for my. That was what I used to pay for my NECO exams.
Okay.
So because at that time, government was still paying for the WAEC.
Correct.
So for NECO, it was that money that I used to for NECO, and my dad
And
just
this is the final exam at the senior secondary
mhm,
school to get into the university.
yeah. So well, there are other cash prizes that I win from like literary and debating society in high school. Like we'll go get some cash prizes and all of that. So, but those ones probably not as big as those two. Yeah. So I went to the university. I actually took a year. I actually didn't go to university immediately because I was thinking I don't know if I'll be able to like go through university as to financial part of things and everything. And so I actually took a year out. That was me that wanted to run away from home still. But I
Mm-hmm.
still took a year out because it was more like I needed to work. So I went to work. And then at the same time, I've not really had computer background as to my school. Anyways, how would I even learn about computer? So I
Yeah.
wanted to learn about computer. So I enrolled in a computer school. I was also working. So the money that I get from work, I used to pay for my JAMB lesson. I mean, JAMB is the entrance exam into the university,
Into the
right?
university.
So, and I was taking this because I don't want to be like out of the classroom in a way totally because I was taking a year and I still want to have the feel of classroom, like still learning things so that I won't forget by the time I'm ready to take the JAMB exams. I was working. So I just splitted my day into three. I'll go to work in the morning. I'll go to JAMB lesson. Then in the evening, I'll go to the computer school. And I
Okay.
just go home to go sleep and continue the
That's
following
all.
day. So I kept doing that for that year, and I was paying for everything. I feel like at some
Mm-hmm.
point my dad was feeling like, "Why do you live as if nobody exists?" Because I wasn't asking him for money. I was because I don't want something to just hinder whatever it is I'm doing. As young as I was, I felt like I figured it out as to what to do. So I just kept doing things like that. And then when I was ready to go to university, well, I didn't get admission to university. I had a very good jam score, was like 240, but still, I ended up in a poly. I
That's
was,
a polytechnic. Yeah.
yeah, I was in a polytechnic, and then I was like, okay, I don't like it, because for me, I felt like I was performing so well, but I was like, okay, I need something better. So I did another jump again, and I went to the university. Uh, those parts also was very funny because I think I really didn't have enough money. I have spent money even in going to poly because we had paid the school fees, and I had
Mm-hmm.
spent money to write the jump. I had spent money to go write the post jam because I have to travel down to the school to do the post jam.
Yeah.
And I think I had two schools, and I already went to those. One was in Osun State, one was Funab in Abeokuta, where I was, and so I had spent almost all my money. And when I get admission into Funab, I was like, I don't have money. Well, what could I do? I actually just went to the deacon. There was a deacon in my church who I perceived like a rich guy. And I just went to him. I'm like, you know what? You know my dad, right? He said, yes. I said, he's very shy to ask you for money. So that's why I'm doing it. Like, he needed
Mm.
to pay for my acceptance fee into the university, but he doesn't have it and he's very shy to ask you. Well, this,
Wow.
this man gave me the money. And then I later called my dad and I was like, well, I borrowed the money in your name. Then at least you have a good name anyway. For him to be able to give me money, it means you have a good name.
Yeah.
Pay it back when you're ready. Because I also asked him
Wow.
if you could pay it in 6 months. He said yes. So yeah, you can take 6 months to pay it back. It was to him.
Uh,
It was just
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Good.
maybe at that point. Also, my dad was saying that this guy, there's no stopping him in whatever he wants
Mm-hmm.
to do. So I just kept doing that, and then went to university. University was kind of fun. Like I felt like university was more mature, for more fun. People are more not entirely like sensitive to your feeling, but a little bit,
Yeah, but more matured
yeah,
about it,
more
really.
mature about it. They wouldn't say it like it was in high school. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't even say it much. And then I find women to be very much more understanding. Well, women are more like I even get help from, but at that point on, so I don't even classify myself as somebody with any disability. Honestly, I felt like it was
Yeah.
until I came to Canada that I knew that I remember that I had disability. I
Yeah.
never knew throughout university that I actually had any disability whatsoever. Because whatever it is we'll do, I champion things like if we're going to have a lab and then we don't have enough resources, I just talk to my colleagues or my classmates, and then we're going to contribute the money and make sure that it happens. Because for me, it was more like nothing can stop this thing. You people cannot stop this vision for me. So,
No,
like, it
no.
has to be done. I don't know. I don't care how, but it has to be done. So that
I'm going somewhere and everything was aligned for me to get there.
exactly. So if there's any challenge, I actually don't care about the challenge. Like where I'm going, it must happen. Even though
Mm.
it wasn't like I had it in mind that I was gonna come to Canada, but it's just for me. I just wanted to empower myself. Like I was like, if I could have a degree, and I don't know, like the way my brother used to make jest of me. I'm not the guy that can do physical work as well. I'm always like, "Ah, I can't lift things." No, so my options were like just one and one alone: go to school, get a degree, and then you probably be able to get a good job. Or if I wanted to do a business, maybe I'll be able to do a business. So that was just what was on my mind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anything to actually stop it. So, well, university was kind of fun because it was more like me actually killing it in terms of grades. Grades were like I keep jumping from like good grades to good grades. Even it got to a point, the HOD of the department, you know, like in Nigeria, we can be a lot in a department that you don't even know who is who. They only see the name and matric number. So you give the matric number to, so I was like, this person, I want to see the person like face to face. I want to see this guy face, but like I want to know his face.
Mhm.
And when I got there, I was like, oh, wow, interesting. So you are the one. I'm
Mm.
like, what did I do? I was like, wow. Yeah, it's always very impressive. And I've been wondering, who is this? And because, well, I didn't start as the best in class. I didn't start with the first class, right? But I just kept on jumping. Like, sometimes I would just have 5.0, then have another 5.0, like 4.9. And then he was wondering,
And 5.0 really is excellent grades. This
yeah,
is this is
yeah,
everything all checked out.
yeah, that's like the maximum. You have A's in everything that you know. So it was just like, oh, wow. That's he wants to encourage me to keep doing that and all of that. And well, eventually, to I moved to become the HOC, which was the head of class. And
Hmm.
I honestly, I feel like I always have a lot more responsibility. If I see something not, and I felt like it probably from everything that I went through when I was quite younger, if something is not working right, I probably would most likely step in and be like, how can we do this thing better? Like this thing can work. I
Yeah.
became very optimistic. I'm not gonna like even my classmates and people tell me I'm too optimistic.
Mm.
I became very optimistic. If something is not working, I can tell you that you if you don't want to do things, don't just tell me. Like if you have made up your mind not to do it, don't tell him. Don't tell me like about the thing, because as soon as you tell me, I'm going to probably just champion it and be like, yeah, it can work. We can try it. If it
Yeah.
doesn't work, we can try it another way. If it doesn't work, we can try it again. You can keep trying. Somebody be like, do you want to exhaust yourself? But it's just
Mm.
that point of I never knew that that was like part of me not giving up on things, and I would just keep looking at things like, oh, okay, this is what I want to achieve. I when I entered university, I was saying if I could just have to and do everything. But as time goes on, the way I read, and then I forgot to mention that because of my high, I read very slowly and really just understand. I take more time to understand things. So because of
Hmm.
that, I have to read very slowly and then I have to start on time. So in the university, I probably started reading from the third week in the university. Like for every semester, I started reading from the third week, and we probably have like 15 weeks of lecture.
Yeah.
But that's it because I can't actually, I don't know how to do all those, do go to night. I don't go for night class to read, to night reading that people
Yeah.
do. I don't do it because I don't even have the capacity with my eye to do that. So I don't put that heavy load on my eye. So I have to start like really, really when everything is like there's no pressure.
Yeah. Give yourself the head start.
Yeah. So I will always just do that, keep reading at that point. Even some of my classmates will be like, we just resumed this semester. Allow yourself to enjoy a little bit. I was like, okay, so what exactly is there for me to enjoy? So um I was probably a workaholic, honestly. And then I'll just keep reading. And then I'm probably one of those guys when we do some tests, you know how some people can score 45 and be like, wow, I passed this course on to next semester. And then there is this
Hmm.
other guy that scored 95 and be like, no, I wanted to score 100. And
Yeah.
you are like, are you crazy? And the person is disappointed, saying, no, 95 is not enough. And you're like, even A is 70.
Yeah.
What do you need 100 for? Well, I became that because of accuracy. My
So you were driving for perfection, really.
Yeah, I became like that point where but honestly, I feel like it declined at some point. I stopped the perfection part. I started like, oh yeah, as soon as I have A in everything, I'm good.
It's good enough.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I moved down. I moved back to that because I noticed that, oh, okay. No, it wasn't a point of if I could do it again. It was a point that was established that I could now do it.
Yeah.
So I felt like it probably me moving to that point where I needed to understand that, okay, now you know you can do it, and that's exactly what you needed. So university was pretty much good, and then
Hmm.
I had a couple of people that I always inspired as well. Like people would just be like, the way you just do your thing. And I think at some point I told somebody about my story, and the person was like the person was shocked. It was like you don't actually look like that person. Wait. I'm like, well, I don't even talk about the story. I'm not even gonna go into the details because I feel like maybe at that point I don't see the need talking about what was wrong with me. Because also
Yeah.
sometimes if you have gone through something and you keep going through it, it becomes normal to you. That's not until you hear about a decent condition or a better environment that you begin to see that okay, what you were going through was actually not normal. Because
Yeah.
to me, I saw no point in talking about it because it felt like it's a normal thing because it has happened for that long, extended period of time that it had become normal. So when I told my friend and he was like, wow, you mean all of this thing happened to you? I was like, yes, it happened. He was like, that's not normal at all. And
Yeah.
at that point, well, I still don't care. Like, I just wanted to just finish. And then, but before I finish, I started having, there's always a problem in this world, anyways. I started having
Hmm.
this issue with, I started pulling statistics as to when people finish, the kind of job they are doing, what they are doing. So I was in my fourth year, and then my course was supposed to be 5 years. So I was in my fourth year, and then I was saying that. Then I started talking to a senior guy who was doing his masters, and I was like, "What if I wanted to do my masters outside of this country?" And then obviously, you know that I'm broke, I don't have money. So I was asking the guy, and the guy was like, "How well? It's very possible that you don't even need to pay a dime." I'm like, "Are you serious, or
Mm.
you are pulling my legs?" He was like, "Oh yeah, for sure, that is possible." That if I can just maintain my results the way it is till I finish, I'm like, that's no problem. I was like, if it to be that one, yeah, of course. Even though I really didn't understand everything, so but in my final year, this guy and a couple of other guys put me in a scholarship group, and I started applying. Oh my god, the first application I had, the result didn't come out until when I went. I was in camp for NYSA
Yeah.
when they sent me the rejection email. And I was crying as if Somebody took something very important away from me. So,
Because I mean, apparently that could have seemed to be your only way
yeah,
out.
because I was
Because I mean,
I was looking for a
considering
way.
everything that's happened,
Hmm.
yeah, and maybe just to call out, I think very importantly, one of the things I've been, as you just talked through this, final fourth year, is asking the right questions.
Yeah,
As much as you had no experience with any of your siblings, even going into the higher institution, to
yeah.
university, or even maybe sometimes even friends around, and
Mhm.
so this information didn't necessarily come to you. It was you asking
Yeah.
out of the need to wanting to grow.
Mm.
And obviously, considering your situation and wanting to, what, financially,
Yeah.
this is not possible.
Yeah.
How can I get a head start? And then you were asking the right questions, and this led you to being, being part of this scholarship group.
Mhm.
And of course, yeah, as you mentioned, your first rejection, came like a sword, like a dagger to the heart, really.
Yeah, it was very hard because I was just standing there, I was just crying. Like I think we were like on the queue to get our bicycle allowance on
Mm.
camp, and then when this email came in, and I just opened it, I was like, if I had known, I wouldn't have opened this email. And I was just on the queue crying. Like I had a friend that was like, "What happened to
What
you?"
happened?
I was like, "Oh, you can't understand." As I am, like it's like somebody just took
Yeah.
something that belonged to me away. So
It's funny. It's funny. It's funny that we're laughing about it right now.
yeah,
But I mean, I can imagine how sad
oh
you would
yeah,
have been at that time, really.
I was really sad. I felt like I won that scholarship.
Yeah.
I won it for a
It was
while.
it was the first rejection. I'm not sure if you gotten any rejection
Yeah,
before that time. Apparently,
that's another
I mean,
thing to really like. I've not really gotten a rejection aside from. I mean, it's not like I've not really gotten a rejection. I mean, I've gotten a rejection when I was looking for admission to university, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
I've not really gotten a rejection as to like the way I do things. I know the trend of my results, the grades,
hmm,
everything. Yeah, and also because I'm very optimistic. I think that was what really
yeah,
affected me that much. Actually, I was very very optimistic about everything. So when that came in, it felt like maybe I wasn't supposed to put all my hopes on this thing. And
hmm,
but after a while, oh goodness, I went back to my drawing table. Everybody in NYC that time that knew me could attest to the fact that everywhere I go, I have a book with me. And what am I doing? I'm writing essay and rewriting it. I'll write essay
wow,
and I'll rewrite it. And I keep on writing. I have a book, like I have a lot. And I don't have, mind you, I don't have a computer. Like I don't have a laptop to actually type things. So I have a book where I always write it. So when I need to, like, I type it on my phone when I'm ready.
hmm.
Like when I felt like I've perfected it, then I type it on my phone and I save it on my phone. Usually I just save it in my email, kind of. I send it to myself and then just keep it in the email like that. I don't
Hmm.
even have a computer for any of these applications whatsoever, like none of them.
And just to put in perspective, the NYSC is that service year where after you finish university, you go and do that as a university graduate. And if I remember correctly, it's a very regimented program where there isn't time
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
anything actually.
Yeah.
Every time, like everything from when you wake up at 5 a.m. or 4:30 is
Mhm.
planned till the end of the day where there's a night out.
Mhm.
And I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out how, in the midst of no time, you really found that time to write this much essays.
Well, I just felt like you see, that rejection just made me know that it was more like an aggressive reaction from my own side
Mm,
to things
mm.
and be like, you know what, I'm just going to keep writing as much. And then I will write these things. When I get to eventually type it, I send it to people like, can you kind of just help me read through this? And then I actually also have a friend who is always very ready at that time. So who just be on the phone, be like, okay, send it to me. We'll open it together and then we'll just read through it.
Let's proofread it and kind
Yeah,
of go through
yeah,
the talking points.
yeah. She would do that, and she was always like, yeah, that one would never. Honestly, I felt like even when I forget about things, it'll be like, are you not applying? Because you're always applying for scholarship. That are you not applying? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm applying. It's just that maybe the deadline is still far away, so I'm still working on a
Mhm.
few essays and all of that. So I I felt like after the first rejection, I put in application for like it's probably up to 20, honestly. When I put in all this, I just sent the application all over the world. Like there is Commonwealth scholarship, there's Commonwealth shared. there is Mastercard scholarship, and Mastercard is not just one school. So I had multiple schools. There is Erasmus scholarship as well. Like, and then there are also PhD. Because I finished with the first class, I could apply for a direct PhD. So there were
Correct.
also PhD scholarship that I actually applied to. Like one of the ones that I applied to in Australia, and then I got a supervisor who was ready to fund me. We had a chat, and the supervisor was willing, was like, go ahead, put in my name as the person that will sponsor the PhD, and we're already like on a track to kind of solidify all of these things until Mastercard sent their own emails and it was like, "Oh yeah, congratulations, you are in, and confirm if you would like to get the scholarship." And I was like, "Okay."
Beautiful.
At first, to get one was hard, but now I have to choose. So I
And this was in service year,
it
right?
was in service here.
Was
All of
wow,
this,
finally light at the end of that
yeah,
tunnel.
and all of this was in service here, and I already told myself, like before then, I had already gotten part scholarship from UK. I always get that one
Mm,
because of my
okay.
results. I always get, but I'm like, I can't even fund the remaining part of the scholarship,
Mm,
so I don't accept them. So usually I just tell them I'm not gonna be able to fund the remaining part, so that I'm looking for something really full, like including the flight. Like I cannot pay for the flight as well.
yeah.
So it's like, okay, your situation is a bit extreme.
We can't help you. We can't help
Yeah.
you now.
So I'll be
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's nothing they could do. They just have the parts. There was one that gave me 75%. Even there was
Hmm.
one that even gave me 100% of the tuition. But I'm like, I need living expenses as well because I can't even fund the living expenses. So I
Yeah.
couldn't actually accept it. It was hard for me in all of these times. It was hard for me to like let go of all the scholarship one after the other. But it was
Yeah.
just pointing to the fact that there's still a limit that I have to overcome. And the limit is the fact that I don't even have the finance to actually fly all the way to this country. Or
Hmm.
yeah, so I still need one that will be able to cover all of this. So even the reason why I let go of the PhD scholarship in Australia, because I would have gone for Australia. Australia is warm compared to this freezing Canada. Yeah.
Cold Canada.
Yeah, so I had to let go because the supervisor told me that they cover the cost of transportation, like the flights and maybe some other costs as to like maybe the medical exam, the visa, but I have to do that with my money. When I arrive in a country like in Australia, they would refund
Hmm.
everything. That's another challenge for me. I don't even have where I can
Where
get
do you
it.
even get that from?
Exactly. I'm like, I don't even have where I'm gonna be able to get this money. Because obviously it's not like my dad has the money and he's not giving me, he doesn't have it. It was hard like for me to actually like be able to do that. So that was when I had to really make up my mind. When Mastercard came in, Mastercard sent me an email. They were like, "If you don't have a passport, we'll send you money to go and get your passport first." I'm like, "Okay, my
Hmm.
situation is not that worse. I have a passport." So for Mastercard, it was more like the worst case is what they are looking for. Like if you don't have a
Like
passport,
we will
we'll start
support you
you.
from
Yeah,
ground zero.
like I didn't have to, and then it was McGill University, like one of the best university in Canada. Like I didn't even have
Yeah.
to pay for application fee. Mastercard just waived it when I was applying. They were the one who took care of it.
I mean, shout out to Mastercard scholarship,
Like, yeah.
and obviously, I mean, for someone like you that has enjoyed the benefit of that scholarship and can attest to how impactful,
Hmm.
I mean, has been in your life. Obviously, considering the other options that you had,
Hmm.
where you had to still cough out however minimal the amount was, but this was a scholarship that really is ready to take applicants, of course, excellent applicants from ground zero. You didn't
Yeah.
need to have anything. Shout out to them for
Hmm.
sure.
Honestly, Mastercard is still the best. Even though I wanted the Erasmus scholarship so bad, I I felt like I wouldn't have loved it because later on I got to know that you have to also pay for those stuff and then they will pay you back later. But
Okay.
MasterCard was, I felt like somebody could trust me to send me some money to take care of things. So,
Hmm.
because even before, like what MasterCard was doing was that MasterCard was working with, as soon as I got admission and as soon as I was selected for the scholarship, they started sending me emails from McGill University, like the MasterCard office there. Started sending me email
Hmm.
like, okay, now will be guiding you for everything that you need till you get to Canada. So
Correct.
now for you to that the next step is for you to apply for visa, like your study permit. And then they sent me the list of like they sent me the information as how to go about it. And also like if there was any question that I had and if there's any challenge and all. And honestly when I submitted the application, I don't even have to think about paying for it. All I just had to do was to create the what's it called account,
Yeah.
submit all the documents because it made like life so easy for me because even
Yeah.
I don't even have that money anyways. So they did all that, and when it was time for medical, they sent money. They sent about 150. It was $600 then, like 600 Canadian
Yeah.
dollars.
Canadian dollars.
But
Okay.
when I cashed it out at the bank, it was like 150,000 naira
Correct.
with the exchange rate at that time. Because and nobody has even sent me money from abroad. You know, when
Ever.
they sent me the email, they sent me things that I need to follow. And I was wondering, would they give me money? Would they not think like I'm doing Yahoo or something? Because that's what I was thinking in my head. Like, I hope they won't say I'm doing Yahoo or anything. I'm not gonna lie to you. Maybe the highest money I've ever handled was like 20K or so. So it's like somebody sent me 150K. I'm like, well, I don't even have anybody abroad, let alone somebody send me. So I went to the bank. I got the money. Honestly, from the bank I went to Shoprite to
Wow.
go and eat.
And this is one of the grocery stores in Nigeria.
Yeah, I went to Shoprite. I went to their food section and I just ordered food. Like
Wow.
I think I spent about 8,000. I mean, out of 150, so that was like I spent just 8,000
Yeah.
just to first of all
And
eat.
this is what, $3,
Yeah,
three
yeah, it
dollars, three
wasn't that
Canadian
much.
dollars in
Yeah,
today's terms.
yeah.
Wow.
And then after that, yeah, because I even took the money and just deposited it into my account because in my head I'm like, I don't want to hear anything happening to that money. I'm not gonna take it out.
It can't miss. This money has a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
must put it to use. Yeah.
it was really very funny the way it was that time, and went for. I had a very delay, like a very long delay in my study permit being approved, because at that time, those that were selected from Nigeria for like at McGill University that time were like three of us,
Hmm.
were three guys, and we connected very quickly, and the two other guys got their visa, and my own was still pending. And I was like, they didn't even send me invitation for medical. And these guys have gotten their visa. And the way it works is that once you get your study permit, you email the MasterCard office in McGill University and they will book your flights. So you can
Really?
imagine I was in a group with these two other guys and their flight have already been booked. And I was just like, I don't even know if I'm
What
going
is
to get
going
the
on
study
again?
permit or not.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but I felt like that's also another test to my faith, honestly, because I can remember I was really at some point I was praying and then I got tired. I'm like, I'm not praying again, and I was just like, because it got to a point because these other guys have gotten their flights booked and everything ready, and by early August they'll be going, and I was just like, you know what, God, I feel like I've really tried in this life, and I was like, even if I don't go to Canada, I'll be successful in this country.
Mm.
That was what I told myself that day. I was like, I'm going to be successful. I don't even know
Yeah.
what was going on in my head. Like I was just like, no matter what, I'm going to be successful. So that was what was in my head at that point. Because I was like, it's not even at this point that this thing is going to be something that will now limit me. Yeah. But as it will happen, the following day, actually, I got an email from them to go and do my medical, and that was everything. Is
Nice.
just like, as they say, everything is just history today. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
like it was really good because coming to Canada, studying, and all of that. I mean, it was pretty smooth. Like it was when I, that's another thing with the environment. When I got to Canada, I realized that I had disability. I
Mm.
realized that what happened to me when I was young was not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mastercard actually had a therapist that we could talk to, like because it was during pandemic time, so there was a therapist that we could all talk to, and then I started talking to this person, and then we started. And then we got talking about my childhood, and the therapist couldn't believe, like he was just like, and
It had to be a scene from a movie, really.
yeah.
It can't happen to
But
anyone.
even myself, I couldn't believe it, because I could remember in that therapy section we were talking, and I was like, I can't imagine that I went through all of this. It feels like I'm looking at a child who went through all of this, and I'm just looking at that child, and I'm wondering, how would a child go through that? Because in my head, what was going through in my head is like, a child is not supposed to survive this kind of thing because it's wrong. And I was just like, maybe I really didn't go through it, honestly.
Mm,
But that was just it at that point, because we were going through. Honestly, I didn't finish that therapy section because I eventually graduated, and we couldn't, like, as soon as you graduate, your all your scholarship benefits actually end.
benefits.
I felt like
Yeah.
that part was not supposed to end because but well, I never really asked Mastercard to actually just allow me finish everything, anyways. But
Yeah.
maybe if I had told them, maybe they would have allowed me, anyways. But
Yeah.
as soon as I
Possibly.
finished,
Possibly.
the therapist had to tell me, like, okay, since you graduate, like, all these things will end and all that. So, and we really didn't finish everything, but we really just talked a little bit about it, like, and it was very, very deep. Like, it felt like it just happened like yesterday, like just happened like 3 days ago. Like, I was just looking at everything, like the whole going on, because I felt like even in all of my story, it was good because it helped me. Like, I always still like to pick out the best out of things. Like, it gives me a lot of independent thoughts, mindset, because I started thinking beyond what was going on, like in my home, and then also I started thinking I was gonna give myself, like, I have to be in charge of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I like that mindset, honestly, because although it's a the bad side to it is that it doesn't allow you to allow somebody be in charge of your life.
Yeah.
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 But for that period of time, it was necessary and it was needed, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like you're taking the power away from people and having it for yourself. Like, and that's what I was doing. Like, yeah, nobody's gonna have the power to even get to the point to start hurting me because they have the power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was like, there was a whole lot of hurt and all of that. But it also still helped me, like, even after that, I've gone through a lot of things, even in life, beyond home, like everything that happened. And I felt like it kind of just helped me to really be strong as to how I just tell myself, maybe this is not entirely bad. And then,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
it also put that resilience. And if that's one of the key skills that I always tell myself. If there's anything that I bring out of every of my stories, it's the fact that I'm very, very resilient. Recently working with Kagi, and my manager was like, we were in a meeting, and then my manager just looked at me. I was like, this guy is such a good hire. Like, she was just proud. She was just looking at me and was just proud. And in my head, as she was saying that, you know what came to my head? My childhood experience came to my head. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's the fact that I can be resilient in a lot of
Mm.
things. Like, I can expand and contract, like, a lot of times. Like, it's still hard. And I feel like maybe the next stage of my life, I'm moving to the part where the subconscious wall that was built to protect myself
Mm.
before, I need to let it down now.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's hard to let it down. So, well, it's just part of life.
I,
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this really lends nicely to one of the short podcasts that I put out around the paradox of adversity, as it
hmm
were, and the idea of adversity, potentially being there to really bring you down and hold you down.
hmm
However, your ability to learn how to manage that helps you even becoming a better person all
hmm
round, and which is what is really showing in your case. And this story is really interesting. You've been in Canada now for what, 3 years, 4 years?
yeah, it's a little bit above 3 years now.
Yeah, 3 years. So people get a sense of how recent really some of these things have
Oh yeah,
happened.
they're very
And so
recent. Yeah.
it would seem like this was ages ago, but
No.
this is actually really recent. And I when I heard it first, and this was for me, was like, are you joking? Is
Mm-hmm.
Can this potentially happen at this day
Someone.
and age? But yeah, Shayi, this, every time I speak to you, I'm definitely, yeah, I'm just, it just takes me to a space where I'm like, you have gone through so much,
Yeah.
and you have, I know, at least to a very large extent, you've made the very best of it,
Mm-hmm.
to the best of your abilities also, or potentially some areas where you might need to kind of step back and, do some work on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
on
For sure.
considering what you've been through. But you are an excellent individual, and your manager was not, wrong at all in saying you're an excellent hire, really, because even without, much more than that, you're an excellent person. And I know there's probably one very interesting story we might have missed, and I guess it will add a bit of flavor to this. And this was the point where
Yeah.
you had finished university, and your dad coming for your graduation,
Oh yeah, that part.
obviously first class, proud about first class. and
Yeah.
and maybe just, tell us a bit about that. And I don't want people to miss that, because
Yeah.
it was very surprising when you told me. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, honestly, like maybe I was shocked as well, but I wasn't. I would say I wasn't so shocked when I heard it. When I finished university and then it was time for convocation, of course, like exciting time. I was very excited because that was the first time somebody from my family was graduating, and it happened to be me. It was a proud moment. And it was also a moment that I had looked at the 5 years and also the years before that, how that has not really stopped me from still finishing and really graduating. And then also looking at how every little step that I've put together, how I felt like maybe my limitation was going to limit me, but still it didn't. It was such a good moment, and until they were going to award me, I had two awards, and my dad was very excited. They cooked. There was a lot of food, and
Hmm.
my mom, on the other hand, did the same thing. Like even though I told her not to cook, that I told both of them like you don't have to cook actually, because I was serving. It was my service year. I just came back home
Yeah.
for that convocation. I was like, I wasn't supposed to tell them not to cook, but like I said before, I'm used to not being celebrated. So I told
Mm.
them not to actually just don't elaborate anything, just come around. That's what I just want. But well, it was good they cooked anyways. Yeah. There were a lot of food, and then there were like few family members that came around. And of course, when he got to school, he got to know that I studied animal science, and in all his mind, he thought I was a medical student, or probably something related, maybe like a lab scientist eventually or something. So um, when we got home, it was like I think it all started from that place because we were supposed to pay photographer for all the pictures that was paid that we took, and it didn't cover the payment. It was just, and I don't have the money. I was like, so I thought
Wow.
for
So he changed his mind about paying because he learned that you had not studied
yeah.
medicine, or so that he thought you were studying.
Yeah, so it was like, what are you even going to do with this degree and all of that? Well, but that was also a challenge. I had a plan going on. I was already applying for some scholarship, honestly, and I had some plans going on that undergrad. So we got home and it was like, if you had known, that do I think you would have even be putting this money into a course that I doesn't see that there's any meaning to it. So that was a bit disappointing for me because I was like, this is why I don't want you people to be celebrating me again. Because it's not like you people understand the point of the celebration, anyways. So
Yeah.
that was, but I was saying that to myself anyway. I didn't tell him anything. I just smiled. It really didn't break me down. I was just disappointed from those words, but I was just so shocked to actually hear that. And of course, my mom, on the other hand, doesn't care. Whatever you like, you
Yeah.
study. She was
She was just a
excited.
proud mother and just
Yeah.
proud of you.
So like we had those times, and then I went back. When I got the scholarship, I didn't tell him. So I didn't actually bother telling him. Although I told him at some point that I was applying for scholarship, but when I got it, I didn't even bother telling him. And also because I was also a bit excited with the fact that okay, I don't even need to tell him so that he doesn't feel like maybe there's a need for him to do anything. Moreover, everything is covered as well. So it was when I got to Canada, and I think maybe like a week later that I called him. I'm in Canada, and
Mm.
it wasn't so shocked. I would say the only thing he asked me was like, "Is it still the same course?" I said yes, and he was like, "Wow." So it was just an interesting story, honestly, because
Mm.
I felt like it shouldn't even have said that in the first place. First of all, I had no example from the family as to what to do
Yeah.
when it comes to career. Like, I don't even have example from any of you people. I don't even have example to look at. And then I've gone the way to actually just do whatever it is that I felt best. I even don't have, there were times that I just wish I have somebody that I could tell, like, oh, this is my result. They don't even understand my result. Like, I just feel like it's just my siblings that understand what the result is like. Like, my parents don't even understand what it is. Because even at some point, I didn't bother telling them. You understand? Like, my dad really didn't finish primary school. My mom only finished high school. All my siblings before me finished, they stopped at high school. So it was like, even when I want to talk about a higher education, I don't even have somebody to actually just discuss that with within the family. So I just
Mm.
will figure my shit out anyhow. Just find a way to figure it out. So that's why I was like, I'm not expecting him to like be disappointed in whatever it is that I do. I mean, it's not like there's this clear path as to how to go about that anyways. This is just a boy just trying to like make sure he still do something. And but in all of this I had if, the deacon that I mentioned that I went to borrow money from,
Yeah.
this that family was really supporting me. Like when I tell them my result, they were like so proud every time. They were always like encouraging me, like they were always excited. At some point, you would think I'm part of their family because they were always like very excited. Like when I come back from school, even when I graduated and then I told them about my result, they were so like they were just excited. And when I was going to Canada as well, that Dickens still went ahead to do because I was supposed to get my driver license even before I left Nigeria, and I was having issue getting it. Well, most of the issue are finance, so I don't even have the money to actually just pay. This man went ahead to get the driver license, did everything to make sure that I have it and I could drive even before I left. So
Yeah.
like I still have maybe a little bit those people that really understood that part of, oh, okay, this guy is really just making a way for himself and all of that. Yeah. And it really just helps to know that. And I feel
Yeah.
like,
We
yeah,
all need, we all need a support system. Yeah.
that's probably a good summary of this one high story. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an incredible summary.
Yeah.
Ah, oh boy, this is my story. This is Sheyi's story. I think first of all, I really want to thank you and thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to share your story to the millions and millions of people that will listen to this.
Mm,
And I'm sure that they'll be impacted by what they've learned and they will pick too many things. There's so many things to pick out from this story. I can't even mention
mm.
so many things. And I know that there's some things that we haven't touched on. Potentially
Oh,
we'll
for
look at
sure.
if we have to maybe circle back and just talk. But I think so far
Hmm.
this is a lot, and I want to thank you so much for coming on this journey with me to also share your journey to the world,
Hmm.
and so that people can see the power
Yeah.
of what one's journey can actually do, and what it is like. Thank you so much, Shay. I really really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks so much for reaching out, and then thanks for putting this together, and then for the time as well. Like, I just felt like it was time to say it, and then, I mean, thank you for reaching out. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for allowing me share your story. I
Yeah.
think I'm very privileged. I feel very privileged, and yeah, thank you so much.